Hunger and thirst are mankind's two oldest enemies. At the close of the 20th century, humanity is still battling with them day by day in all four corners of the world. Hey fella, what are you doing here?
Water.
Sure, water. Look what I found right here.
Could I have some of that?
No, don't drink this. This is brackish. Sea lion, you know, slightly salty. Why don't you try some of this? What are you doing lying here in the sand? Get up!
Hey, you don't have anything to eat, do you?
Sure I do. Come right here.
Hey, where did you find that?
Have a seat. I'll explain it all to you. Man gets his food from the soil, from the earth. But there are still millions of acres which are not being used. In fact, mankind hasn't yet laid hand on most of the desert lands on this planet of ours.
Okay, but what's that got to do with a tomato?
Wait and see. Israel, for example, is right in the middle of one of those desert areas. It's called the Sahara. And the Negev Desert, which is part of it, makes up more than half of the whole country.
But what's that got to do with...
Hang in there just a moment.
Okay.
Israel is one of the world's leaders in advanced agriculture. Ever since the state was established, and even before that, we've been putting out a massive effort to combat our desert climate. Making the desert bloom and settling people here was one of the great dreams of David Ben-Gurion, our first prime minister. He said, "These lands, apparently abandoned and hopeless, may in a not-so-distant future become alive, pulsing with willpower, and unknown resources will yield great blessings, if we can only delve into their secrets."
What was he talking about? What kinds of secrets?
Look, I've no idea whether Ben-Gurion was some kind of detective or whether he just had a kind of intuition. The fact is that there is water in the desert, and a lot of it.
Really? Where?
Take a look at this.
What's this? What's all this water?
That's what I was telling you about. Brackish water. All over the world, there are billions and billions of gallons of somewhat salty water. Even in the biggest deserts, in the Australian outback, the African Sahara, in China's Gobi Desert, Chile's Atacama, and in the Kalahari in southern Africa, even in the USA. The only problem is that we can't use these waters for agriculture by usual methods. It's the salt which is bad for the plants and sometimes for the soil itself. So these waters turn out to be more of a curse than a blessing. Ever since the very beginning of desert settlement, way back in 1943, farmers have been trying to solve the problem of how to use salty waters, and there have been a lot of experiments in this field. In 1980, farmers in the arid and sandy areas decided to set up a center, kind of experimental farm, which would serve all agriculture in the Negev Desert. Right in the middle of nowhere, where the loess topsoil, which is a light powdery soil carried and deposited by the wind, meets the sand dunes, right here they founded what's called Desert Agriculture Negev Experiment Center. The place serves local researchers. It's shared by academic researchers working on various projects, and also by staff from the Ministry of Agriculture's Training Division. You've got 5 permanent researchers from the kibbutzim in the region. helped by technicians who are specialists in agriculture. If you want to know just how important all this is to the State of Israel, meet the founder of this experimental center, Yoel de Malach. Yoel came to this region way back in 1943 with the founders of kibbutz Revivim, and ever since then he's been obsessed with finding solutions to the problems of desert agriculture. He's been honored for his achievements with the state's highest award, the Israel Prize.
Shalom!
Hi. Yeah, that's all just great. But you still haven't said anything about that tomato.
Don't rush me, I'm getting there. The major experiments being done here concentrate on the two principal problems of desert agriculture: sandy soil and salty water. They are attacking the water problem from various angles: how to improve the genetic structure of plants to be grown, studying their physiology, but mostly they're looking for ways to improve systems of irrigation and fertilizing, and to match them to the needs of the farmer himself. Here, for example, we've got a computer which was specially developed for this research station. What it does is it controls what we call the water mix. It checks and balances the amounts of expensive sweet water piped from the north with salty water pumped out from local wells. This way we can tell how the plants react to different doses of salinity. Tell me, Ms. Hohoba, just how many teaspoons of salt do you like in your water? The second thing they're dealing with here is the sandy soil problem. That's soil which can't easily retain the water and fertilizers that the plants need. Here they're developing techniques to provide just the right amounts of water and fertilizers on a strictly scheduled rationing system up to 6 times a day, so that the plants can grow the best suited root patterns and efficiency for this soil. At the same time, they're developing substances which can increase the containment of water in the ground.
So, what with my tomato?
Hang in there. We'll get to it. Naturally enough, the Ramat HaNegev Experimental Center has become a focus of international interest. Many of the research projects carried out here have become world famous. Statesmen and specialists from developing countries and throughout the entire world all come to visit.
This is a plant that grows also in Israel. Yes. This is all over.
We take it now for the cows.
There was an Egyptian research team here for a period of several months, and as a result, farms have been set up in Egypt modeled on the systems they studied here. Everyone here wants a closer ties with the third world.
So, what's this all about?
I don't believe it. He's actually asking me a question instead of going on about that tomato. The future has unlimited possibilities. They're already at work here on all kinds of ideas. New genetic varieties of plants, for example, with tougher salinity resistance. Computerized irrigation systems for the exact rationing and mixing of sweet and brackish water. And the futuristic project, Remote Control Agrotechnics. This is a fully automated system which provides plants with the exact amounts of water and fertilizer they need, exactly when they need it, by monitoring their actual growth. And all this with no need for manpower. The moment they discovered the potential hidden in salty water, these guys here at the experimental center were faced with a host of possibilities. For example, they've already managed to grow vast fields of cattle fodder. One of the optimistic researchers here calls this field Little Holland.
So, whose dream is this?
It is no dream, my friend. This is a pear orchard, fed by brackish waters. Who knows? Maybe one day the entire Negev desert will be just one deep green sea of orchards.
Don't go overboard. Next thing you'll be telling me is we'll be seeing racing boats around here.
Boats, maybe not. But there'll still be plenty more fish to catch in this here sea. They're breeding and growing all kinds of edible fish. Saltwater fish in a natural temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, or 98 Fahrenheit. No doubt a great deal of effort. But today we're really beginning to see the first fruits of it all. Nowadays in the Negev, we've got thousands of acres of all kinds of crops under cultivation. And it's not only possible, it's also profitable. It also tastes good. And if you can farm a place, you can sure live in it. In the US, in a desert area the size of the Negev, you'd be lucky to find more than a few families. Here we've got 3,000. Places like Retamim, Ashalim, Kadesh Barnea, they're all set up here as a result of agricultural development. And don't forget, most of the water used here is not drawn from Israel's main sweetwater resources. And that's how we finally get to your tomato. Just a few years ago, nobody in their right mind would have believed we could raise a tomato like this in a place like that. We call it the desert sweet. We export that tomato all over the world. You should see how it sells in Europe, like hotcakes. I tell you, this little fella is the best ambassador Israel ever had. And believe you me, this ain't the last word.
You mean you got other kind of tomatoes here?
I didn't say that. We still have a long way to go, but there's a great potential here. Once we get computerized and install more advanced equipment, which naturally means more ways and means, then we can branch out into all sorts of research fields. Now you tell me what kinds of crops we can develop here.
You tell me. In the meantime, I sure have fallen for your desert sweet.